He finds a wallet in a small-town diner with a coffee-stained 20 that could buy his kids medicine. He gives it back every dollar. The owner, a billionaire who can't believe anyone would. He doubts. He tests. He's wrong. Then the thank you turns into a storm. Whisper posts, a fake bank transfer, and a knock from child services. Crowds cheer, then turn. A hospital alarm beeps. A courtroom gavel drops. And inside that wallet, a hidden letter from long ago hints at a promise made in war and a truth that could rebuild the whole town. When doing the right thing costs everything, will a single dad's honesty save his child and his town, or will power and lies win? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning light slanted through Miss Etta's front windows, catching the steam from Marcus Reed's coffee as he watched his daughter work her way through a stack of pancakes. Lily had arranged the butter pats into a smiley face before drowning the whole thing in syrup, a Saturday tradition that made his chest tight with equal parts love and worry. The inhaler in her pocket had 2, maybe 3 puffs left. "Daddy, listen." Lily tilted her head toward the jukebox in the corner. The old Wurlitzer was cycling through its morning playlist, and a piano-only version of "His Eye is on the Sparrow" filled the diner with its gentle melody. Marcus nodded, taking another sip of coffee that Miss Etta kept refilling without being asked. The diner hummed with its usual Saturday crowd, construction workers coming off night shifts, a table of church ladies planning tomorrow's potluck, old Mr. Chen reading his paper in the corner booth. "You gonna eat those eggs before they get cold?" Miss Etta appeared at his elbow, coffee pot in one hand, the other planted on her hip. Her apron, the same yellow gingham she'd worn for 20 years, had fresh grease stains from the morning rush. "Yes, ma'am." Marcus picked up his fork, though his stomach felt like a clenched fist. $20. That's what sat in his wallet, and it had to last until something changed. Lily pushed her plate away, exactly half the pancakes gone. "Can I go look at the gumball machine?" "Don't go asking for quarters," Marcus said, then softened. "But yeah, go ahead." She slipped out of the booth, her worn sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. Marcus watched her press her nose against the glass globe full of colorful gumballs, her breath fogging the surface. "That child's got your mama's eyes," Miss Etta said, settling into the booth across from him. The vinyl wheezed under her weight. "Same way of seeing good in everything." Marcus worked on his eggs, which had gone rubbery but were still food. "Mama always said you make the best eggs in 3 counties. "Your mama said a lot of things." "Smart woman." Miss Etta's voice dropped. "How you holding up, baby?" "We're managing." "Mm-hmm." She studied him the way she'd been studying folks in this town for 50 years. "That factory job never came through?" "They went with someone else. Someone younger, someone who hadn't spent 8 years in the Army, someone whose resume didn't have a 2-year gap while his wife died slowly from cancer." But Marcus kept that to himself. The bell above the door chimed, and a man in an expensive suit walked in, looking lost. Tourist, probably, or someone passing through on business. He stood at the "Please wait to be seated" sign like he'd never been in a real diner before. "Sit anywhere you like, honey," Miss Etta called out, not moving from Marcus's booth. The man chose a table by the window, pulling out his phone immediately. "You know what your problem is?" Miss Etta leaned forward. "Too much pride to ask for help. I'm not taking charity." "Who said anything about charity?" "May Ellison mentioned they need someone to look at the church van. Things been making noises." Marcus almost smiled. Pastor May's mentioning things was her way of creating work that preserved dignity. "I'll stop by." "Good." Miss Etta stood, joints popping. "Lily, baby, come get this to-go box. Save them pancakes for later." Lily bounced back to the table, clutching the styrofoam container like treasure. Marcus counted out $8 for breakfast, leaving 2 for tip, a quarter of everything he had, but Miss Etta's kindness was worth more than money. The walk home took them past the shuttered Greenwood Steel facility, its parking lot cracked and sprouting weeds. Lily stopped to pick dandelions from a chain-link fence, tucking them behind her ear. "These are for Mama," she announced, the way she did every Saturday. She'd love them, baby. They climbed the narrow stairs to their second-floor apartment, the railing wobbling under Marcus's hand. He'd fix it if the landlord would buy the materials, but Tom Garrett squeezed every penny until it screamed. Inside, their small space felt smaller. Clean, though Marcus made sure of that. Lily's drawings covered one wall, bright splashes of color against the beige paint. She'd drawn their family over and over. 3 figures holding hands, even though one was always depicted with wings now. "Can we go to the cemetery later?" Lily asked, placing her dandelions in a jelly jar with water. "After I look at the car," the Civic in the parking lot had started making a grinding noise yesterday. If it was the brake pads, he could probably manage. If it was the transmission, Marcus set his phone on the charger. The screen had a crack across it, but it still worked. He pulled the bag of rice from the cabinet, checked the beans he'd left soaking overnight. Rice and beans again, but Lily never complained. She was already at her little table, pulling out her colored pencils. "What you drawing today?" "Something beautiful," she said, not looking up. "Miss Etta says if you draw beautiful things, they might come true." Marcus started the rice, measuring water with the precision of someone who'd learned not to waste anything. The beans went into another pot with the last of the ham bone from Tuesday, a bay leaf, and hoped that it would stretch to tomorrow. Through the thin walls, he could hear the Johnsons arguing again, could hear Mrs. Chen's television playing her Korean dramas. The afternoon sun beat against the windows, making the apartment feel like an oven. But running the AC would triple the electric bill. He locked the door and tested it twice. The deadbolt had been sticking lately. "Daddy, when you fix the car, can we drive to the lake?" "We'll see, baby." He stirred the beans, watching them bubble. "We'll see." The brake pads were shot. Marcus wiped grease from his hands with an old t-shirt, staring at the worn metal. $40 at least, if he did the work himself. $60 if he couldn't find used parts. Is it bad? Lily sat on the parking lot curb, her inhaler beside her. She'd been wheezing again after climbing the stairs. "Nothing I can't handle." He lowered the hood gently. The latch had been temperamental lately. "Just needs some parts." Mrs. Chen shuffled past with her grocery cart, the wheels squeaking. She paused, studying Marcus's work. "My nephew, he has junkyard, maybe has parts." "I appreciate that, Mrs. Chen." She nodded and continued toward the building. Lily waved, and the old woman's face softened into something close to a smile. Back upstairs, they ate the rice and beans in front of the small television, watching a nature documentary Lily had checked out from the library. She curled against his side, her breathing still slightly labored. "Penguins mate for life," she announced. "Like you and Mama." Marcus kissed the top of her head. Her hair smelled like the lavender soap they bought at the dollar store. "Time for your medicine, baby." She took her inhaler without complaint, but Marcus counted 3 puffs left, maybe 4. The refill would cost $38 at the pharmacy. He had 20 at home, hidden in the coffee can above the refrigerator. The same 20 he'd been guarding for 2 weeks. After her bath, Lily presented him with her latest drawing. A man in green Marcus's old army jacket standing next to a car with its hood open. In the corner, she'd drawn a small angel watching. "That's you fixing everything," she explained, "and Mama making sure you do it right. It's perfect. Let's put it on the fridge." They rearranged the gallery of drawings to make room. There were dozens now, their family at the park, at church, at Miss Etta's. Always 3 figures, always together somehow. During bedtime prayers, Lily added, "And please help Daddy fix the car without spending too much money." "Amen," Marcus whispered. She fell asleep quickly, but her breathing worried him. That slight whistle, the way her chest worked harder than it should. The inhaler helped, but she needed it more often lately. Maybe the apartment's dust, maybe the mold he suspected grew behind the bathroom wall, where the paint bubbled. Marcus sat at the kitchen table with his notebook, doing math that never worked out right. Rent due Friday $450, electric bill past due $87, phone $40, gas for the car whatever he could manage. Food, rice and beans stretched far, but Lily needed milk, needed fruit. The coffee can held $20, their entire emergency fund. He thought about the wallet from that morning, that $20 bill with its coffee stain. One bill that could buy Lily's medicine with change left over. He'd held it for maybe 10 seconds, but the weight of it stayed with him. Walter Charles Langford. The name sounded important, sounded like someone who'd never counted out coins for pancakes, and that letter, E. Reed. His father had been Edward Reed, died when Marcus was 22, before Lily was born. A Vietnam vet who rarely talked about the war but woke up screaming from it twice a week until the day he died. Coincidence? Had to be. Marcus pulled out his father's old Bible, the one thing he'd kept besides photos. Edward Reed had written notes in the margins, underlined passages about endurance, about suffering producing character. His handwriting was careful, precise, like he was afraid of taking up too much space. The phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mr. Reed? This is the Langford Hotel. We're calling about the wallet you turned in this morning. Yes? The owner would like to thank you personally. Would tomorrow morning work? Say, 10 o'clock? Marcus thought about Lily's inhaler, about the brake pads, about the $20 that wouldn't cover both. I didn't do it for a reward. He insists on thanking you. The concierge can arrange transportation if needed. I'll drive myself. The car would make it up the hill probably. Excellent. Just give your name at the front desk. After the call, Marcus checked on Lily. She'd kicked off her covers, and her breathing had that slight catch that meant she'd need the inhaler before morning. He pulled the sheet back over her, noticed how much she looked like Tessa when she slept. Same peaceful expression, same way of curling her hand under her cheek. The apartment was quiet now. The Johnsons had stopped arguing. Mrs. Chen's television was off. Even the street outside had settled into something like peace. Marcus lay down, staring at the ceiling with its water stain shaped like Ohio. Tomorrow he'd meet Walter Langford. Tomorrow he'd smile and shake hands and refuse whatever reward the man offered, because that's what his father would have done. Edward Reed had taught him that integrity didn't have a price tag, but integrity didn't buy medicine either. E. Reed. The coincidence gnawed at him. His father had saved lives in Vietnam, had come home with a Bronze Star he'd hidden in a drawer, never talked about who he'd saved or why it mattered. Just carried it all inside until his heart gave out at 59. Lily's inhaler wheezed in the darkness. 3 puffs, Marcus counted. Maybe 4. He closed his eyes and tried not to think about coffee-stained $20 bills or letters to dead men, or the way poverty made every right choice feel like a luxury he couldn't afford. Rosa Alvarez balanced her coffee on the edge of the security desk, careful not to spill on the keyboard. 7:10 on a Sunday morning, and she should have been at Mass. Instead, she sat in the hotel's cramped security room, clicking through yesterday's footage. Walter had called her at 6:30, voice rough with sleeplessness. Find me everything. Every second that man was in this building. She'd worked for the Langfords for 47 years. Changed Walter's sheets when he came home from Vietnam, held his hand at Margaret's funeral, watched him build walls around himself brick by brick. She knew his moods, his tells. This morning, something had shifted. The timestamp read 11:42 a.m. when Marcus Reed appeared on camera 3. Tall, lean, moving with military precision despite worn jeans and a faded Ohio State sweatshirt. The little girl beside him, Lily, according to the visitor log, held his hand and a red crayon. Rosa leaned closer. The child drew on the back of a grocery receipt while her father spoke to the desk clerk. No fidgeting, no looking around at the marble columns or crystal chandelier, just focused on her art while Marcus signed the log. Camera 7 showed the clerk offering something a reward, probably. Marcus shook his head, handed over the wallet, signed again. 2 minutes, 17 seconds total. He'd left his phone number but nothing else. She rewound, watched again. The moment Marcus pulled out the wallet, the way he handled it, careful, respectful, like it mattered. The clerk had barely looked at him, already turning to answer the phone. Rosa found herself studying the child. Something about her reminded Rosa of Walter's daughter Catherine at that age, before boarding school and bitter divorces turned her cold. This girl had the same gentle focus, the same way of tilting her head when she concentrated. She burned the footage to a disk, then made a copy. Walter would want proof, but Rosa had learned to keep her own records. 47 years taught you that truth needed backup. Her phone rang, Walter again. Did you find it? Every second. He was here 2 minutes, 17 seconds. Turned in the wallet, refused a reward, left. Silence. Then, you're certain nothing was missing? Walter! She used his name like she had when he was young and stubborn. The boy returned your wallet with everything inside. Even that coffee-stained 20 you've carried for 30 years. The letter? Still there, still sealed. More silence. Rosa sipped her coffee, waited. Through the security room's narrow window, she watched the sun paint the river gold. Bring me the footage. You have a 10 o'clock with Mr. Reed. I know what I have. But his voice had lost its edge. Rosa smiled slightly. Maybe Walter would finally open that letter. Maybe this Marcus Reed would be the push he needed. She locked the security room and walked through the hotel's kitchen, empty on Sunday morning, except for the breakfast chef prepping room service orders. The service elevator creaked its way to the penthouse. Walter stood by the window in yesterday's clothes, his cane forgotten against the desk. The wallet lay open beside it, that stained $20 bill and yellowed letter side by side. Here. She handed him the disc. He didn't take it. Tell me what you saw. A father doing right. A child who trusts him. No performance, no angle. Everyone has an angle. Not everyone. Rosa set the disc on the desk, picked up his cane, brought it to him. Margaret would have liked him. Walter's jaw tightened at his wife's name. 5 years gone, and it still cut deep. The letters to E. Reed, he said finally. The man's last name is Reed. Could be coincidence. Could be. But Walter's fingers trembled slightly as he touched the envelope. 42 years I've carried it. 42 years looking for. Maybe you found him. Edward Reed would be 70-something now. This man's young. Sons carry their father's names. Walter turned from the window, and Rosa saw something she hadn't seen in years, hope. Fighting with fear. What if it's him? What if Edward Reed's son just walked into my hotel and... He stopped, pressed his palm flat against the desk. The things I said yesterday. The assumptions. So, apologize. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Rosa collected the empty coffee cups from his desk, noticed he hadn't eaten since yesterday's lunch. You want to make it complicated because complicated lets you hide. But this is simple. A good man returned your wallet. You treated him badly. Say you're sorry. He's coming at 10, so be ready at 10. Marcus checked his watch again. 9:40. The car had started on the third try, which felt like a miracle. Lily wore her church dress, the blue one with daisies that Tessa had bought 2 sizes too big so it would last. Why can't we go to early service? Lily asked from the back seat. Mr. Langford wants to meet us first. The man from yesterday, the one with the wallet? That's right. Is he going to say sorry for being mean? Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror. His daughter saw everything, understood more than most 9-year-olds should have to. I don't know, baby. If he doesn't, can we still be nice to him? We're always nice. That's who we are. They drove through Greenwood's quiet Sunday streets. A few folks heading to early mass at St. Mary's, others walking dogs, or grabbing coffee from the one shop open before noon. The Langford Hotel rose on the hill like something from another world, all glass and limestone, valet parking, doormen in uniforms that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. Before he could turn in, his phone rang. The hotel. "Mr. Reed, there's been a change. Mr. Langford will meet you at New Hope Baptist Church instead. 11 o'clock service." Marcus nearly laughed. "He's coming to church?" "Yes, sir. He asked me to convey his apologies for the change." "Looks like we're going to regular service after all." "Good. I can sit with Miss Keisha and sing in the children's choir." They drove past the hotel, down toward the river, where New Hope's steeple caught the morning sun. The parking lot was already filling up, families climbing out of cars, grandmothers in their best hats, children racing around in their church clothes. Marcus parked in his usual spot, far enough back that the car's rust didn't show too badly. Through the windshield he watched a black town car pull up to the church's front steps. The driver got out, opened the rear door, but no one emerged. Inside the sedan, Walter Langford stared at the church doors while the choir's warm-up scales drifted through stained glass windows. The congregation settled into worn pews as Pastor May stepped to the pulpit. Marcus found their usual spot, fifth row back, aisle seat, so Lily could slip out for children's choir. The morning light painted blue and gold patterns across dark wood through the stained glass windows. "Before we begin," Pastor May said, her voice carrying that particular warmth that made strangers feel like family, "let's welcome all visitors this morning." A few heads turned. Near the back, Walter Langford sat rigid in the last pew, his cane propped against the wooden seat. He'd entered during the opening prayer, moving quiet as smoke. The service flowed like it always did, hymns that everybody knew by heart, announcements about the food drive and Thursday's prayer meeting. Then came time for the children's choir. Lily and 6 other kids lined up at the front, their young voices threading together on Amazing Grace. When Lily's solo verse came, "I once was lost but now am found," her clear voice filled the sanctuary. Marcus watched Walter's face change, something cracking open behind those careful eyes. Phones started buzzing during the sermon, first one, then another, like crickets waking up. Marcus felt his own phone vibrate, but ignored it. Pastor May paused mid-sentence about seeds falling on good soil, gave the congregation that look mothers perfect when their children act up in public. The buzzing stopped. "As I was saying," she continued smoothly, "integrity isn't what you do when folks are watching, it's what you do when nobody's looking but God." More phones. Whatever was happening, it was spreading fast. Marcus caught glimpses of screens lighting up, faces changing as people read. A woman 2 rows up showed her husband something. He looked back at Marcus, then at Walter. The benediction couldn't come fast enough. As Pastor May raised her hands for the final blessing, Walter stood. The whole church noticed you couldn't miss that slow, deliberate rise, the way he gripped his cane. "Pastor Ellison," Walter's voice carried despite its quietness, "may I?" Pastor May nodded, stepping aside. Walter moved into the center aisle. Each step echoed on the old floorboards. He stopped beside Marcus's pew, turned to face the congregation. "Yesterday, this man found my wallet. Had $20 in it, which I now understand was close to all he had." Walter's words came measured, careful. He returned it untouched. And I questioned his integrity. The church went still. Even the children stopped fidgeting. I was wrong. My assumptions, my suspicions, they say everything about me and nothing about Mr. Reed. Walter looked directly at Marcus. "I apologize. No excuses. And I want to pay forward what integrity taught me today." Soft amens rose from the congregation. Mrs. Washington reached over and squeezed Marcus's shoulder. But Marcus also caught the looks from the back rows, folks who'd lost jobs when Langford Industries shut the mills, families who knew what that name meant in this town. "We forgive around here," Pastor May said, reclaiming her pulpit, "and we remember that redemption's always one right choice away." As people filed out, conversations buzzed. Miss Etta appeared at Marcus's elbow, her Sunday hat adorned with silk flowers. "You two are coming to lunch." "Not asking." She looked at Walter. "You too. Time you ate like regular folks." Walter hesitated. Marcus saw the calculation. This wasn't his world. These weren't his people. "We'd be honored," Marcus said, answering for both of them. Outside, the afternoon sun made everyone squint. Naomi Park from the Greenwood Gazette stood by the steps, phone in one hand, recorder in the other. "Mr. Reed, Mr. Langford, can I get a quick word?" "The story's already trending." "What story?" Marcus asked. She showed him her phone screen. The headline made his stomach drop. "Single dad returns lost wallet with last 20 inside. The owner is a billionaire who can't believe it." 2 quotes, that's all. Naomi pressed. "Mr. Reed?" Marcus kept it simple. "Everyone would have done the same thing. It's just doing what's right." "Mr. Langford?" Walter stared at the headline on her phone. "I couldn't believe it at first. That's on me. Says more about what wealth does to your faith in people than anything else." Miss Etta's diner hummed with Sunday afternoon energy. She put them in a corner booth, Marcus and Lily on one side, Walter on the other. The vinyl squeaked when they sat. Coffee appeared without anyone ordering it. "Meatloaf's good today," Miss Etta announced. "Cornbread too. I'll bring both." Walter's phone hadn't stopped buzzing. He finally switched it off, slipped it into his jacket pocket alongside the wallet. "They're talking about us," Lily whispered, noticing the stares from other tables. "Let them talk," Marcus said quietly. "We know who we are." The food came, thick slabs of meatloaf swimming in gravy, cornbread still warm from the oven, green beans that had simmered all morning. Walter picked up his fork, then paused. "When's the last time you ate in a place like this?" Marcus asked. "Margaret used to drag me to a diner in Columbus, before she got sick." Walter took a bite, closed his eyes. Tasted just like this. The bell over the door kept ringing. Folks finding reasons to come in, ordering pie they didn't need, whispering about the headline that was spreading through Greenwood like wildfire. Walter pushed his empty plate aside and pulled a napkin toward him. His pen, a Mont Blanc that cost more than most folks' rent, scratched across the thin paper. "Veterans Neighbors Fund," he said aloud, underlining the words. "Marcus, what would it take to get men like you working again?" "Tools. Training. Someone to believe they're worth the investment. And the neighbors part? Everyone needs something. Mrs. Chen's roof leaks. The Petersons can't afford their son's insulin, but folks here have skills, they just need a way to trade them that doesn't involve money they don't have." Walter kept writing. Numbers appeared, big ones. Lily watched, fascinated by how fast his hand moved. "You know what killed this town?" Miss Etta appeared with pie neither of them had ordered. "When your factories left, they took more than jobs, took folks' belief that work meant something. We could bring that back," Walter said. "Not factories, something better. Marcus, would you consider being community liaison? Paid position, of course." Before Marcus could answer, the diner door slammed open. Bryce Langford stood there in his weekend polo and pressed khakis, phone pressed to his ear. He spotted Walter and ended his call. "Dad!" The word came out sharp. "We need to talk." Cassandra appeared behind him, her manicured nails flying across her phone screen. She looked up, took in the scene, her father-in-law in a cracked vinyl booth with a black single dad and his daughter, and her face went tight. "Not now, Bryce," Walter said. "The story's everywhere. Our investors are asking questions." Bryce's eyes flicked to Marcus. "About your new friend." "Careful," Walter warned. But Cassandra was already showing Bryce her phone. His expression shifted surprise to calculation to something uglier. "Interesting," Bryce said slowly. "Mr. Reed, wasn't there an incident about 10 years ago? Something about shoplifting?" The diner went quiet. Even the coffee maker seemed to pause its gurgling. Marcus felt Lily's hand find his under the table. That was dismissed, a misunderstanding. Still, Cassandra's voice dripped false concern. It raises questions about motives. Finding a billionaire's wallet right when you need money most? "Stop," Walter commanded. "I'm protecting you, Dad. You're talking about giving this man access to millions." I said stop. But the damage was done. Phones were already out at other tables. The whispers had changed tone, doubt creeping in where warmth had been. Marcus stood. We should go. Marcus, Walter started. Thank you for lunch, Mr. Langford. Marcus helped Lily from the booth. Miss Etta, wonderful as always. They left through a diner that had gone cold despite the afternoon sun streaming through windows. At home, Marcus's phone exploded with notifications. The Greenwood Gazette comments section had turned into a war zone. Knew it was too good to be true. Once a thief, always a thief. Bet he planted that wallet himself. Check his record 2011 shoplifting charge. This man's a con artist. The truth didn't matter that he'd grabbed medicine for Lily during an asthma attack, planning to pay, that the store had dropped charges immediately when they understood. The internet didn't care about context. A knock rattled their door. Mrs. Patterson from 2C stood there, face pinched. Marcus, I've always liked you, but the landlord called. Says, with all this attention, these accusations. She handed him an envelope. I'm sorry. Eviction notice. 30 days. Lily stood in her bedroom doorway, inhaler in hand. Daddy? It's okay, baby. Get ready for bed. Another knock. This time Officer Timmons, looking uncomfortable. Marcus, I know this is bogus, but I need you to come to the station tomorrow, just to clear things up about the old charge. Bring any documentation you have. After Timmons left, Marcus sat on their worn couch, head in his hands. His phone rang Walter. Marcus, I'm so sorry. My son had no right. Your son's not wrong to protect you. He is wrong. About you, about everything. The fund is still happening. You're still the liaison if you want it. Mr. Langford, I appreciate 9 a.m. tomorrow. My office at Langford Tower. We're making this right. The line went dead. Marcus looked at the eviction notice, at the online bile still pouring in, at his daughter's medicine running low on the kitchen counter. In Lily's room, she lay under her quilt, the one Tessa had made before she died. Marcus sat on the bed's edge. Are we in trouble? She asked. No, sweetheart. Sometimes doing right looks like trouble at first. Mr. Walter seemed sad today. He did. His son seems sadder, but means sad. Not regular sad. Marcus kissed her forehead. You're too smart for 9 years old. Mom would say pray about it. Then that's what we'll do. They prayed together for wisdom, for grace, for the strength to stay steady when the ground shifted. After Lily's breathing deepened into sleep, Marcus returned to the living room. The lamp cast long shadows. His phone screen showed more messages, more accusations, more people deciding who he was based on a 10-year-old dismissed charge. He texted Pastor May, pray for wisdom. Meeting Walter at 9 a.m. Monday. Her response came immediately. Already praying. Remember, David was a shepherd before he fought Goliath. Your integrity is your slingshot. Marcus set the phone aside and stared at Tessa's photo. Help me navigate this, he whispered. Help me show Lily that doing right matters, even when it costs everything. Outside, Greenwood slept fitfully, a town divided by a headline and the questions it raised about who deserved trust and who could afford to give it. Monday morning arrived gray and reluctant. Marcus stood in the hallway facing his landlord, Mr. Garrison, a thin man who kept checking his watch like he had somewhere better to be. Nothing personal, Reed, but I've got other tenants asking questions. The internet's saying things. The internet says a lot of things that aren't true. Maybe, but I can't have drama. You understand. Marcus understood perfectly. Fear dressed up as practicality. 30 days? That's the legal minimum. I'm being fair. From the doorway, Lily watched, her sketchbook pressed against her chest. She'd drawn their building last week, every window, every crack in the brick, even Mrs. Patterson's cat sunbathing on the fire escape. Daddy has to get ready for work, Marcus said gently. Garrison shifted. Work? Thought you were between jobs. Starting something new today? Right. The billionaire thing. Garrison's tone suggested he'd already decided that was another lie. 30 days, Reed. After Garrison left, Lily approached with her sketchbook. She'd been drawing a lily plant growing through concrete, its white flowers reaching toward a sketched sun. "For Mr. Walter," she said, "so his office won't be so gray." Marcus hugged her tight. "He'll love it, baby." Langford Tower pierced the morning fog like an accusation against the rest of Greenwood's modest skyline. Marcus parked his sedan between a Mercedes and a Tesla, the check engine light glowing like a badge of honor. The lobby stretched 3 stories high, all marble and glass, and the kind of silence money bought. The receptionist looked at Marcus's khakis and polo shirt, then at her computer screen, then back at him. "You're expected. 20th floor." The elevator rose smoothly, unlike the grinding one in Marcus's building. When the doors opened, Walter stood waiting, leaning on his cane. "You came." "Said I would." Walter's office sprawled wider than Marcus's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Greenwood below the river, the closed mills, the church steeples poking through morning mist. "Coffee?" "Please." Walter poured from a silver carafe, hands slightly trembling. "Not age, emotion. My son called 6 board members last night, suggesting I'm having a senior moment, that you've manipulated me." Marcus set down his untouched coffee. "If you need to withdraw the offer, I need to accelerate it." Walter pulled out documents. "The Veterans Neighbors Fund. Initial seed of $10 million. You'll help identify recipients, verify needs, ensure the money reaches real people, not administrative overhead. Mr. Langford, Walter, please." "Walter, your son's not wrong to be protective. $10 million is what I spend on corporate lawyers telling me how to avoid helping people." Walter's voice hardened. "I want to spend it on actually helping them instead." They worked through the morning, Walter asking sharp questions about Greenwood's needs, Marcus answering with quiet expertise. The mobile clinic needed equipment. The elementary school's roof leaked. 7 veteran-owned businesses had folded in the past year for want of small loans. "You've thought about this," Walter observed, "every day since I got back from Afghanistan." Around noon, Bryce arrived without knocking, Cassandra trailing with her phone out, recording. "Dad, we need to talk. Alone." Marcus stays. "This man has a criminal record, a dismissed charge from a decade ago." Walter's voice could have frozen the river. "While getting medicine for his infant daughter." "I've read the file." "You've read?" Bryce's face reddened. "You investigated him?" "After your stunt yesterday, yes. Found nothing but a man who served his country and his community while you've served yourself." Cassandra's phone captured it all, though Marcus suspected this footage would never see social media. "The board won't approve this," Bryce warned. "The board doesn't have to. It's my money." For now, the threat hung in the air like cordite. Bryce stormed out, Cassandra scurrying behind. Walter sagged slightly. "I apologize for my son. He loves you. It just comes out sideways. You're more generous than he deserves." Walter handed Marcus a temporary staff badge and a check. "First week's pay in advance." "I know things are tight." The amount would cover Lily's medicine for 3 months. "This is too much. It's what the position pays. You start tomorrow, officially." 9 a.m. They shook hands, Walter's grip firm despite the tremor. "Oh," Marcus remembered, pulling out Lily's drawing. "She made this for your office." Walter studied the lily growing through concrete, something shifting in his weathered face. "Tell her it's perfect. Tell her." He paused. "Tell her I'll hang it where I can see it every day." The drive home felt different. Not lighter, the eviction notice still waited, the online hatred still churned but purposeful. Marcus stopped at the pharmacy, paid for Lily's inhaler refills, bought groceries without checking his account balance first. At home, he hung the staff badge on a hook by the door. Official. Real. Lily had set the table with their good plates, the ones they saved for birthdays and holidays. "Celebrating?" Marcus asked. Pastor May said when God opens a door, you should walk through it grateful. They ate vegetable soup and cornbread, Lily chattering about school, about her art project, about everything except the meeting with Mr. Garrison that she'd absolutely heard. After dinner, Marcus sent Walter a text, I'm in for the long haul. See you 9 tomorrow. The reply came quickly, thank you, son. Across town, Walter sat alone in his study. Rain began tapping the windows, each drop a small question. He pulled out his wallet, extracted the yellowed letter addressed to E. Reed. His fingers traced the faded ink. Not yet, but soon. Something about Marcus, about today, made him think it might finally be time. He set the letter on his desk where Lily's drawing now stood in a silver frame, hope growing through concrete and reaching for light that had to exist, even when the clouds pressed close. Tomorrow would bring more battles. Bryce would regroup. The internet would continue its fury. But tonight, in 2 different homes, 2 men who'd found each other through a lost wallet, prepared for whatever came next. The pancakes came out perfect golden circles on the old griddle Marcus had salvaged from a yard sale. Lily sat at the kitchen table, math homework pushed aside, working on another drawing. This one showed 2 men fixing a car together, one old and white, one younger and black. That Mr. Walter and you? Maybe. She added, a small girl holding a wrench. He seemed sad. What makes you think that? His eyes. Like yours after Mama died. Marcus flipped the last pancake chest tight. 2 years gone and Lily still read him like scripture. Eat up. Bus comes in 20 minutes. She folded the drawing carefully into her backpack. For art class. Mrs. Coleman says we should draw what gives us hope. At 7:15, Marcus walked her to the bus stop. 3 neighbors stood with their kids, the Johnsons, who'd always been friendly, the Martins, who nodded but kept their distance now, and Mrs. Park, whose grandson attended Lily's school. Heard about the job, Mrs. Park said quietly. Good for you. Also heard other things, Mr. Martin added, not meeting Marcus's eyes. The bus saved them all from continuing. Lily hugged Marcus tight, whispered, Love you, Daddy, and bounded up the steps. At Langford Industries, Marcus found Walter already in his office, surrounded by bankers' boxes. Financial records, Walter explained. Every community grant we've made in 40 years. Most of them. He gestured dismissively. Tax write-offs, photo opportunities, nothing that lasted. They spent the morning sorting real help from performance charity. Marcus recognized patterns, money flowing to organizations run by friends of board members, avoiding the neighborhoods that needed it most. This one, Marcus held up a folder, Greenwood Community Clinic. You gave them $50,000 in 2018. I remember. Bryce arranged it. Big ceremony. The money went to renovate the waiting room. Meanwhile, they couldn't afford insulin for diabetic patients. Walter's jaw tightened. How do you know? My wife died there. Not from her cancer that was always terminal. From an infection they couldn't treat because they'd run out of antibiotics. Spent $50,000 on leather chairs, while people died for want of $20 medicines. The office fell silent, except for rain against windows. I'm sorry, Walter said finally. Don't be sorry. Be different. Rosa knocked, entering with a woman Marcus recognized, Dr. May Chen from the clinic. Dr. Chen heard about the fund, Rosa explained. Thought you should talk directly. May Chen was younger than Marcus expected, maybe 35, with tired eyes and steady hands. She carried a worn medical bag like armor. I'll be frank, she began. We need everything, medicines, equipment, staff, but mostly we need trust. Your company's name on our building means nothing if families can't afford to walk through the door. What would help today? Marcus asked. Not next month, not after board meetings, today. Inhalers, we're completely out. Seeing kids every day who can't breathe right, sending them home with samples that'll last maybe a week. Walter pulled out his personal checkbook. How much? That's not, May paused. 30,000 would stock us for 6 months. Walter wrote the check. Personal funds, not corporate. What else? A mobile unit. Reach people who can't reach us. But that's how much? 200,000. Equipped. You'll have it by Friday. Marcus will coordinate delivery. After May left stunned, clutching the check, Walter turned to Marcus. She didn't trust me. Would you? No. Walter studied his hands. My father built this company on military contracts, made fortune after fortune while boys like your father came home broken or not at all. I continued the tradition. Refined it, called it good business. What changed? Nothing. That's the problem. I'm 79 years old, and nothing changed until a stranger returned my wallet with his last $20 inside. Bryce entered without knocking again, face flushed. You wrote a personal check to the clinic? 30,000? My money. Family money. Board oversight. Doesn't extend to my personal accounts. Walter's voice carried decades of boardroom battles. However, you're right about one thing. We should involve the board. He hit the speakerphone. Margaret? Walter, schedule a full board meeting tomorrow, 6 p.m. Yes, in person. Tell them we'll be voting on the Veterans Neighbors Fund. 10 million initial. Bryce went pale. You can't. I can. I am. Walter looked at Marcus. You'll present the need. I'll present the plan. The board will vote. They'll never approve it, Bryce warned. Not with him involved. Not after what Cassandra posted. Then I'll fund it personally. 20 million instead of 10. Father and son stared at each other across decades of distance. Why? Bryce's voice cracked slightly. Why him? Why now? Because I'm running out of time to do something that matters. Bryce left. This time, he closed the door quietly. That evening, Marcus and Lily ate spaghetti while rain drummed the windows. The eviction notice lay on the counter, 28 days remaining. Daddy? Lily twisted her fork. Are we going to be okay? We're going to be better than okay. Even if we have to move? Even then. He pulled her close. Sometimes change leads to better things. She fell asleep on the couch watching cartoons. Marcus carried her to bed, then sat at the kitchen table with Rosa's copies of the security footage, Officer Timmons's report, Naomi's article printouts. Evidence. Truth. Tomorrow, the board would decide if truth mattered more than perception. He set his alarm for 6:00 a.m., placed one of Dr. Chen's sample inhalers on the counter. May had insisted, knowing about Lily, and texted Pastor May. We'll be there at 6 p.m. Tomorrow ready with receipts. Her reply came quick. Bringing the choir. Some battles need backup singers. The article hit phones at 7 sharp. Miss Etta taped her printout next to the coffee maker where everyone would see it. Local vet's record cleared. Dismissed charge from 2009 was case of mistaken identity. Naomi had done her homework, court records, witness statements, even a quote from the store owner who'd apologized to Marcus years ago. About time, Miss Etta muttered, refilling salt shakers while her morning regulars read. Marcus didn't see the article. He spent the morning at Riverview Mill with Walter and 3 contractors, measuring square footage for the veteran auto shop. The old foreman, Horace, walked them through the space. Good bones, Horace said, kicking a support beam. Just needs purpose again. Like most of us, Walter replied. They found usable equipment under tarps lifts, tool chests, an old alignment rack. Marcus ran his hand over dusty metal, already seeing veterans learning trades here, neighbors getting fair prices, dignity returning through honest work. 6 months to retrofit, the lead contractor estimated, maybe 4 if we hire local. Hire local, Walter said. Start Monday. At noon, Rosa appeared with sandwiches and a warning. Bryce called, an emergency conference call. He's telling board members, you've lost perspective. Walter bit into his sandwich. Good. Perspective was killing me. The church filled early. By 5:30, every pew held bodies, and folding chairs lined the walls. Pastor May had spread word through 3 neighborhoods: veterans, shop owners, parents from Lily's school, folks who'd eaten at Miss Etta's counter for 40 years. Marcus stood near the front with Walter, watching people stream in. He spotted Officer Timmons in uniform, Dr. Chen with 2 nurses, even the landlord who'd evicted him, looking uncomfortable by the door. "Scared?" Walter asked. "Terrified." "Good. Means it matters." Bryce and Cassandra arrived at 5:55, designer clothes stark against worn wood pews. Cassandra held her phone like a weapon, ready to record any misstep. They sat in the back, an island of skepticism in an ocean of hope. Pastor May opened with prayer, then got straight to business. "We're here about truth and consequence. Marcus Reed has been slandered. Walter Langford wants to make amends. This town needs both men to succeed." She invited Marcus up first. He pulled out a thumb drive, plugged it into the church's old projector. The security footage played Marcus at the hotel desk, handing over the wallet immediately. Time stamp clear. "No hesitation, that's Truth 1, Marcus said. He clicked to Naomi's article, the court records. "Truth 2, that old charge was dropped because I was helping a friend whose kid was having an asthma attack in a store. Security thought I was stealing. I wasn't." The owner apologized. "It's all documented." Murmurs rippled through pews. Someone whispered, "Told you so." Walter stood next. No prepared speech, just truth. "My company discriminated in hiring for decades. Locked out qualified black workers, Vietnamese refugees, anyone we deemed complicated. I let it happen, benefited from it. That ends now." He outlined the fund: $10 million to start, open application, committee of locals deciding allocation. Marcus would coordinate, part-time initially, full-time once established. The veteran shop would be first, then microloans, then the mobile clinic. "Why should we trust you?" someone called out. "Rich folks always got conditions." "Because I'm dying," Walter said simply. The church went still. "Not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but soon enough that I can't afford to lie anymore. This fund will outlive me." "It needs to, if it's going to matter." Bryce stood. "This is emotional manipulation. This is confession," Walter interrupted. "Something you might try." Father and son faced each other across rows of witnesses. "The board won't approve this," Bryce warned. "Then I'll sell my shares and fund it personally." "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." Cassandra raised her phone, recording. "Everyone's seeing this. The real Walter Langford, threatening his own son. The real Walter Langford is trying to fix what he broke," Pastor May interjected. "Let him." Rosa stood, surprising everyone. She rarely spoke publicly. "I cleaned that man's house for 30 years. Raised his son when his wife died. Never once heard him apologize for anything until this week. If Walter Langford can change, maybe this town can too." One by one, people stood to speak. Veterans needing work, mothers needing childcare, shop owners needing customers who could afford to buy. Each story built the case Greenwood was dying by degrees, needed radical intervention. Marcus typed notes on his phone, capturing needs, names, connections. This was what the fund could be: not charity, but circulation. Money moving through town like blood through a body, keeping everything alive. At 8:30. Pastor May called for quiet. "We're not here to vote, just to witness. Walter and Marcus will present to the board tomorrow. But know this: we're watching, we're praying, and we're ready to work." The choir stood without cue, voices rising in amazing grace. Even Bryce stopped protesting, trapped by the sound of his father singing cracked voice, but true for the first time since his mother's funeral. The parking lot emptied slowly, people lingering to exchange numbers, make plans. Marcus buckled a sleeping Lily into her booster seat, while Walter stood by his town car, holding the thumb drive Marcus had used. "Bring the same receipts tomorrow?" Walter asked. "Every time they ask, the board might still kill this. Then we build it anyway. Just slower." Walter pocketed the drive. Above them, the moon hung clear and bright. No clouds left from yesterday's rain. Thursday morning arrived crisp and clear. The conference room on the third floor of Walter's headquarters felt different from the executive suite, smaller, warmer, with windows facing the river instead of the town. Daria Pennington spread documents across the oak table like a general planning a campaign. "The board meets at 2, she said, adjusting her reading glasses. "They'll challenge everything: Walter's mental fitness, Marcus's credentials, the fund structure. We need airtight answers." Marcus studied the bylaws she'd drafted overnight. 20 pages of safeguards, oversight committees, audit requirements. "This feels like a lot of rules for helping people." "Rules protect the help from becoming harm," Daria replied. "Trust me, I've seen good intentions turn into lawsuits. We do this right, or Bryce picks it apart in court." Walter traced a finger down the allocation framework. "Local committee of 7, 3 veterans, 2 business owners, 2 faith leaders, rotating terms. No single person controls distribution." "Including you," Daria emphasized. "You're the founder, not the king." "Good." They rehearsed responses for 2 hours. Daria played devil's advocate, firing questions Bryce would likely ask. Marcus learned to answer without emotion, just facts. Walter practiced staying calm when challenged about his judgment. At 11:30, Rosa brought sandwiches and a warning. "Bryce has been on calls all morning. He's got 3 board members worried about stockholder backlash." "Let them worry," Walter said. "My money, my choice." "Actually," Daria corrected, pulling out incorporation papers, "it's the foundation's money once you sign. That's the point. It can't be clawed back, even if Bryce takes control of Langford Industries." Marcus's phone buzzed. "Pastor May, praying. Also, Miss Etta's offering her back room for the committee's first meeting. Neutral ground." At 1:45, they walked to the boardroom. 12 directors sat around a polished table that cost more than most Greenwood families made in a year. Bryce had positioned himself at the far end, a stack of printed social media posts beside him. "Gentlemen, ladies," Walter began, "I'm establishing a charitable foundation with my personal funds. This board's approval isn't required, but I wanted you informed." "Your mental state is our business," Bryce countered. "If you're being manipulated," Daria slid competency evaluations across the table. 2 independent psychiatrists examined Mr. Langford this week. Both confirm he's fully capable of making financial decisions. Psychiatrists can be bought. So can sons, apparently. The room tensed. Walter raised a hand for calm. Marcus stood, surprising everyone. "May I?" Bryce smirked. "The handyman wants to speak?" "The veteran does." Marcus pulled out his phone, found a photo. "This is my father, Edward Reed, combat medic, Vietnam, 1969 to 1971. This is his Purple Heart, his Bronze Star. He came home, worked at Langford Manufacturing for 6 months, then got laid off in what you called restructuring, but everyone knew was racial. He never complained, started his own shop, fixed cars until cancer took him." He swiped to another photo. "This is me in Kandahar, 2009. That's my unit. Half came home. The ones who did can't find work because places like this," he gestured at the gleaming boardroom, "won't hire them. Mr. Langford wants to change that." "Why is that threatening?" "Because it's admission of guilt," a director said quietly. "Opens us to lawsuits." "No," Daria corrected. "The statute of limitations has passed on employment discrimination from that era. This is voluntary restitution, legally protected as charitable giving." The debate lasted 90 minutes. Spreadsheets, projections, risk assessments. Finally, Walter stood. "I'm doing this with or without your blessing, but I'd rather have it. One veteran hiring another veteran to help other veterans, that's not manipulation, that's multiplication." The vote was 8-4 in favor of noting no objection. Not endorsement, but not obstruction either. Bryce stormed out without a word. Cassandra followed, already typing on her phone. Friday crawled by in a blur of paperwork and planning. Marcus spent the morning at City Hall, pulling permits for the auto shop location, an abandoned gas station on Route 42. The afternoon disappeared into spreadsheets with Rosa, cataloging every need mentioned at Wednesday's forum. At 4:30, he shut his laptop and drove to Lily's school. She bounded out of art club with paint on her fingers and joy on her face. "We made banners for Sunday, Mrs. Chen let me draw lilies on mine." They walked home slowly, Lily chattering about colors and hope. As they passed New Hope Baptist, Marcus saw volunteers unloading folding tables from a rental truck. Miss Etta directed traffic while Pastor May tested a microphone. "That's a lot of tables," Lily observed, expecting a crowd. Good crowd or angry crowd? Marcus considered lying, chose truth instead. Both, probably. Change scares some people. But we're still doing it? We're still doing it. They stopped to help carry tables inside. The fellowship hall transformed table by table into something bigger, not just a room but a possibility. Space for applications, testimonies, commitments. Space for Greenwood to imagine itself differently. "Mr. Reed?" A young volunteer, maybe 20, approached nervously. "I heard about the veteran shop. I just got back from Syria. Could I maybe Sunday bring your DD 214? We'll talk." The kid's face lit up like Christmas morning. He grabbed 2 tables at once, carried them like they weighed nothing. Lily tugged Marcus's hand. "Daddy, look." Outside, Walter's town car had pulled up. The old man climbed out slowly, came to the church door, stood there like he needed permission to enter. "Mr. Walter." Lily ran to him, grabbed his free hand. "Come see where the good thing happens." She led him inside, pointing out where everything would go. Walter listened seriously, asking questions about her banner design, her hopes for Sunday. For a moment, he looked less like a billionaire and more like a grandfather, the kind Lily had never had. The mansion library smelled of leather and lemon polish. Morning light streamed through tall windows, catching dust motes that danced like memory. Walter sat behind his grandfather's desk, while Marcus stood near the fireplace, studying a portrait of young Walter in uniform. "That was taken 6 weeks before I shipped out," Walter said. "Thought I knew everything at 21. Rosa entered with coffee and a box of yellowed files. She set them down gently, touched Walter's shoulder. "It's time," she said simply, then left them alone. Walter pulled the letter from his wallet. The paper, soft as cloth from years of handling, trembled in his fingers. The envelope read, "E. Reed" in faded blue ink. "I wrote this in a field hospital outside Da Nang. Never sent it." Walter's voice caught. "Your father saved my life, Marcus. More than once." Marcus moved closer but didn't speak. Walter unfolded the letter slowly, as if diffusing a bomb. His eyes scanned first, then he read aloud. "Eddie, if you find this, it means I didn't make it home to say what needs saying. You pulled me out of that ambush when my whole squad was gone. You worked on me for 6 hours when the other medics said quit. You held my hand through the fever, told me about your wife back home, your dreams of opening a shop. I was wrong about things, wrong about people like you. My daddy raised me narrow, but you opened my eyes wide. If I make it home, I promise to find you, to make sure you get the chances I'll get just for being born white and wealthy. I owe you my life, but more than that, I owe you the truth. You're twice the man I'll ever be. Your friend, I hope, Walter Langford." Silence filled the library like water. "I made it home," Walter whispered. "Tried to find him. By the time I traced him to Greenwood, he'd already died. Cancer, they said. I kept the letter, kept the guilt." Marcus picked up a file from the box. Inside were employment records from 1972, his father's brief stint at Langford Manufacturing, terminated after 6 months for productivity issues. "He was the best mechanic in 3 counties, Marcus said quietly. "Customers followed him when he opened his own shop. I know, I checked. After I found out he'd worked for us and been let go, I tried to fix it quietly. Sent contracts his way through intermediaries. He never knew. He would have wanted to know. Walter nodded, wiping his eyes. I was a coward. Easier to help from shadows than face what my family's company did. They spent the next 3 hours going through files. Employment records showing clear patterns, qualified black, applicants rejected, veterans dismissed at higher rates than civilians, women relegated to secretarial pools regardless of education. Each file a small tragedy, a dream deferred. We'll name them, Walter decided. Everyone we can find who was wronged. Offer restitution. That'll cost millions. Good. Money's just paper if it doesn't repair something. At noon, Rosa brought sandwiches. They ate in silence, surrounded by evidence of old sins. Finally, Marcus asked the question that had been building. Why didn't you just sell the company? Start over? Walter looked out at the grounds mannered gardens his wife had loved, now tended by a crew he rarely saw. Pride. Thought I could change it from inside. But institutions have immune systems. They reject change like foreign tissue. He turned back to Marcus. You're young enough to build new. Don't try to reform the old. Create something that never needed reforming. By 3-0. They had a list of 67 names people wronged by Langford companies between 1965 and 1995. Rosa would research current addresses, next of kin. The fund would reach out personally to each one. This will make headlines, Marcus warned. Let them write what they want. Truth doesn't need public relations. As Marcus prepared to leave, Walter handed him a check, personal, not corporate. First month's salary. Non-negotiable. Marcus looked at the amount, tried to hand it back. This is too much. It's what you're worth. What your father was worth. Cash it, Marcus. Pride's expensive, and Lily needs that inhaler. By evening, Marcus felt wrung out like a dish rag. He and Lily sat in their usual booth at Miss Etta's, sharing a burger and fries. The diner was quiet, most folks home, preparing for tomorrow's launch. You okay, Daddy? Lily asked, offering him her pickle. Just thinking. About Grandpa Eddie? Marcus looked at his daughter, so much of her grandfather in her eyes, that same steady gaze that saw through to the heart of things. Yeah, baby. About Grandpa Eddie. Miss Etta slid into the booth beside Lily, bringing pie they hadn't ordered. On the house, you both need sugar before tomorrow. Miss Etta, Marcus started, but she waved him off. Hush, I knew your daddy. Fixed my Buick for 10 years, never overcharged once. He'd be proud of what you're building. She looked out the window toward the church. This town's been dying so long, we forgot what living looked like. Maybe tomorrow we remember. She left them to their pie. Lily drew patterns in the whipped cream with her fork, humming something from choir practice. Ready for tomorrow? Marcus asked. Mr. Walter says courage is just fear that said its prayers. When did he tell you that? Yesterday, when I showed him my banner. He looked scared too. Marcus reached across the table, took his daughter's small hand in his. Together they finished their pie, paid their check, and headed home through streets that seemed to hold their breath for Sunday. Marcus stood in the vestibule, Lily's hand in his. Through the doorway, he watched Walter in the third pew, spine straight as rebar, the folded letter visible in his breast pocket. Rosa sat beside him, patting his knee whenever his fingers drummed the hymnal. Nervous? Pastor May appeared at Marcus's elbow, her choir robe rustling, like walking into a firefight without armor. Best armor's already on you. Truth fits better than Kevlar, the processional began. Lily joined the children's choir, her Lily of the Valley banner propped against the piano. Marcus took his seat across the aisle from Walter. Their eyes met, two veterans about to advance on different fronts of the same battle. Pastor May's sermon was brief, pointed. She read from Nehemiah about rebuilding walls, neighbors working side by side, tools in one hand and weapons in the other. Some folks think weapons means guns, but our weapons are transparency, accountability, and the courage to confess before we construct. At 11:20, she called Walter forward. He rose slowly, not from age but from the weight of what he carried. At the podium, he unfolded prepared remarks, then set them aside. "My name is Walter Langford. My company's built half this town and broke the other half." Murmurs rippled. Bryce, seated near the back with Cassandra, half stood. Rosa's look sat him back down. Between 1965 and 1995, Langford's subsidiaries systematically excluded qualified black applicants, promoted men over equally capable women, pushed out veterans who knew their rights. Walter's voice steadied. "We have names, 67 so far. There are more." Someone dropped a hymnal. The sound cracked like a shot. "I'm starting a reparations fund, separate from today's announcement. Every person we wronged, or their descendants, will receive restitution, not charity." What was owed? He pulled out Edward's letter, held it up. "This was written by Marcus Reed's father, a man who saved my life in Vietnam and who my company later failed. He asked me to invest in the sons who come home with empty hands. I'm 40 years late, but I'm here." He signed the commitment letter with a fountain pen, handed it to Pastor May, and walked back to his pew. The sanctuary held its breath. Marcus rose next. "No notes, just truth. A week ago I returned a wallet because it was right. Not heroic, just right. Same as Mr. Walter admitting truth today, same as all of us showing up to build something." He pointed to the sign-up tables visible through the fellowship hall doors. "Reed Co. Auto will train veterans and kids aging out of foster care. Living wages, not minimum. The microloan table has applications for amounts from $500 to $50, real money for real dreams. Dr. Chen's mobile clinic schedule starts Tuesday." Lily and the children's choir stood to sing, not a hymn this time, but an old work song Rosa had taught them. "Pick a bale of cotton, pick a bale a day. Gonna jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton." The choice was deliberate, subversive. Children's voices transforming a slave song into something else: acknowledgement, remembrance, and somehow, hope. By noon, the fellowship hall surged with controlled chaos. 3 lines formed at separate tables. Miss Etta and the paralegal processed micro-loan applications, asking gentle questions about business dreams. Horace Green signed up 6 veterans for auto training before running out of slots. Dr. Chen's clinic schedule filled for the next month. Walter worked the room, but differently than Marcus had ever seen a rich man work. He sat with applicants, took notes, asked what else they needed. When Lydia Bell approached with her 1,984 rejection letter, saved all these years, he stood, apologized in front of everyone, and wrote her a personal check on the spot. Bryce cornered him near the coffee urn. "You're destroying everything." "No, I'm composting it. What grows back will be better." By 2-0. The potluck tables groaned under casseroles and cobblers. People who hadn't spoken in years shared plates. Officer Timmons helped Horace's wife carry food to her car. Cassandra, surprisingly, spent an hour actually listening to 3 women describe their beauty shop dreams, even offered social media advice. At 4-0, as crowds thinned, Naomi pulled Marcus aside. "This is the story, not the wallet. This." "Then write it true." "Planning to. But Marcus Bryce isn't done. My sources say he's calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow." Marcus found Walter helping Rosa fold tables. "Bryce is making his move." Walter didn't look up. "Let him. Public commitments are contracts with God, harder to break than corporate bylaws." By 6:30, dusk painted Greenwood purple. Marcus sat on his apartment steps while Lily drew chalk flowers on the sidewalk. His phone buzzed with texts: 15 veterans wanting shop details, 3 churches offering space, Miss Etta confirming tomorrow's planning breakfast. He typed to Walter, "See you at 9. We'll start the engines." The reply came quick, "Bring coveralls. Real work starts tomorrow." Marcus smiled. Above them, the first stars emerged over a town learning to rebuild itself, one truth at a time. Coffee steam curled through the spare office as Arjun Patel booted the accounting software. Walter had hired him Sunday night, pulled him straight from Ernst, ISAF, young with a simple pitch. Help me give away money without losing a cent to fraud. The CPA's fingers flew across dual monitors, building financial controls from scratch. Every transaction would need 2 signatures, digital timestamps, and automatic flags for anything over 500. Clean architecture? Arjun muttered, pleased. No backdoors, no shadow accounts. At 9:00, Marcus arrived to find the conference room transformed. Whiteboards covered every wall, project timelines, budget allocations, vendor lists. Walter stood at the center with Rosa, Daria, and 3 new faces. Marcus, meet your operations team. Arjun's handling finances. Sarah Chen. Dr. Chen's daughter will coordinate the clinic logistics. Tommy Reeves, Iraq vet, will help run the garage startup. They dove in. Purchase orders for garage equipment. Lease negotiations for the old Firestone building on River Street. Insurance quotes that made Walter wince, but sign anyway. At noon, Bryce's emergency board meeting convened 3 floors up. Through the glass ceiling, literally, they could hear raised voices. Let them yell, Walter said. We have work. By 3:00, they'd processed 17 microloan applications. Arjun's system auto-generated approval letters for 12, flagged 5 for additional documentation. Each approval triggered a text to recipients, your dream is funded. Pick up your check at New Hope Baptist Tuesday, 10 a.m. Marcus's phone rang. Officer Timmons, voice tight. We have a problem. Someone's claiming embezzlement from the Veterans Fund. Anonymous tip, but they provided account numbers. The room froze. Arjun's fingers flew across his keyboard. Impossible. Every cent is tracked. He stopped. His screen showed a 50-0 transfer to an account in Marcus's name, time-stamped Sunday night. That's not mine. I don't even have... I know, Arjun said quietly. The digital signature's wrong. Amateur work, but enough to cause trouble. Walter's phone buzzed. The board had voted to freeze all charitable activities pending investigation. Bryce's text was smug. For the company's protection, Monday bled into evening. Arjun worked through dinner, tracing the fraudulent transfer through proxy servers. Sarah fielded calls from confused loan recipients. Tommy kept the veterans group chat calm, promising answers soon. At 9:00 p.m., Rosa found something. Security footage from Sunday night showed Cassandra in the building at 11:47 p.m., using Bryce's keycard. She's not authorized for this floor, Rosa said softly. They worked until midnight, building their defense. Arjun prepared forensic reports. Daria drafted legal responses. Marcus organized every receipt from the past week: coffee, gas, the inhaler prescription he'd finally filled. Tuesday dawned gray. At 7:00 a.m., Marcus dropped Lily at school early. She pressed a folded paper into his hands. For courage, Daddy. Her Lily of the Valley drawing, colored in hope. At 8:00, 2 police cruisers waited outside the office building. Officer Timmons looked miserable. Marcus, I have to bring you in for questioning. I'm sorry. I know. You're doing your job. Walter tried to intervene, his voice rising, face reddening. Rosa caught his arm as he swayed. Walter. He collapsed, hand clutching his chest. Not quite a heart attack, but close, what the EMTs would later call a cardiac event. As they loaded him onto a stretcher, he grabbed Marcus's wrist. The letter, Edward's letter. Show them. The ambulance doors closed. Bryce emerged from the building, unable to hide his satisfaction. Officers, you'll find our full cooperation. The board has voted to suspend all fund activities and appointed me as interim chairman, given my father's condition. Cassandra stood behind him, phone out, already spinning the story online. Marcus rode to the station in silence. The interrogation room smelled like old coffee and fear. A detective he didn't know laid out printouts. The forged transfer, the fake account, even a mock-up of a check with his signature. I want to believe you, Mr. Reed. But the evidence is fabricated. Arjun Patel can prove it. The timestamp algorithms are wrong. The routing numbers don't match any bank I've ever used. We'll verify that. Until then. They moved him to a holding room. Not quite a cell, but close enough. Wooden bench, water fountain, camera in the corner. Officer Timmons whispered an apology as he left. At 9:30 a.m., the door closed with a metallic click. Marcus sat on the bench, unfolded Lily's drawing. The lily of the valley bloomed on the page, petals shaded in 3 shades of purple. She'd blended herself. He whispered the prayer his father had taught him, the one Edward must have prayed in Vietnam. Lord, when I can't see the way forward, be my eyes. When I can't stand, be my strength. When I can't speak, be my voice. His hands rested on the drawing, steadying himself for the long night ahead. Somewhere, Walter fought for his life. Somewhere, Lily sat in class, believing her daddy always came home. The truth would surface. It always did. But first, the darkness. Marcus traced the penciled petals of Lily's lily of the valley drawing with one fingertip, following each careful line she'd made. The holding room smelled of floor wax and old coffee. Through the reinforced window, he watched officers move past without looking in. At 10:15, Detective Janet Morris entered with a manila folder and 2 cups of water. She sat across from him, her gray suit crisp despite the morning's chaos. Mr. Reed, I've been reviewing the transaction logs. She opened the folder, revealing printouts covered in highlighted timestamps. The payment that cleared this morning, can you walk me through where you were at 7:47 a.m., getting ready for the CPS visit? My daughter was eating cereal. Pastor May had just arrived to help with documentation. Morris made a note. The IP address traces to a residential location across town, not your apartment. Marcus straightened. Then someone used your credentials remotely. Yes, but the DA needs more than that. The payment cleared, $48,000 to a shell company. That's federal wire fraud territory if we can't prove you weren't involved. The door opened. Officer Timmons leaned in, his face grave. Morris, you need to see this. Channel 7's running something. Morris stepped out. Through the gap before the door closed, Marcus caught fragments of noise from the squad room phones ringing, keyboards clicking, someone saying Walter's name. Alone again, Marcus smoothed the drawing on his knee. Lily had colored the stems green with such pressure the crayon had flaked in places. At the bottom she'd written in her careful print, Lilies grow after hard winters. Love, Lily. At noon, Morris returned with a tablet showing security footage. This is from the Langford building at 4:02 p.m. yesterday. She turned the screen toward him. That's Mr. Langford collapsing. You're kneeling beside him. Your hands are visible the entire time until the paramedics arrive at 4:09. Marcus nodded. Remembering Walter's weight against his shoulder, Rosa's trembling hands as she called for help. At 4:06 p.m., while you were tending to Mr. Langford, someone attempted another transaction from the same IP address. They didn't know the first one had already been resubmitted and cleared. Morris tapped the screen. Whoever's doing this doesn't know you well enough to know you'd never leave Walter's side during a medical emergency. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead. Marcus thought of his father, Edward, who'd pulled men from harm in Vietnam. Some things ran deeper than calculation. By 2:00 p.m., the holding room had grown warm. Marcus had refused lunch, his stomach too knotted to eat. Through the window he glimpsed Timmons at his desk, phone pressed to his ear, writing rapidly. At 3:30, Pastor May's voice carried down the hall. Marcus couldn't make out words, but her tone held that particular firmness she used when somebody needed straightening out. A younger voice responded, Alyssa Romero from CPS, Marcus thought. Morris returned at 4:15 with a laptop and a tech specialist named David Chen, who looked about 25 and wore a veteran's admin polo. Mr. Reed, David here is former Air Force Cyber Ops. He's volunteering to help trace the breach. David's fingers flew across the keyboard. The password reset came through a phishing email sent Saturday night. Made to look like a routine security update from the accounting software. He pulled up an email interface. Did you check email that evening? No. After the mansion visit, Lily and I went to dinner at Miss Etta's. Got home around 8, went straight to bed. Someone else with access to your email could have clicked it. Anyone borrow your phone recently? Marcus shook his head, then stopped. Wait. At Sunday's potluck, my phone died. Cassandra Langford offered to charge it in her car. Said she had a fast charger. David and Morris exchanged glances. Evening settled over Greenwood. Through the high window, Marcus watched the sky shift from blue to purple to black. At 7:00, Timmons brought him a sandwich from Miss Etta's turkey and Swiss, her homemade bread. A note was tucked under the wrapper. Praying. The whole church is. At 8:45, the squad room erupted in activity. Through the door's window, Marcus saw officers gathering around a computer screen. Morris rushed out, returned 10 minutes later with barely contained energy. Mr. Reed, IT found something. The burner laptop that resubmitted the payment, it's connecting through a specific Wi-Fi router. We're getting a warrant. The hours stretched. Marcus dozed, jerked awake, dozed again. His back ached from the bench. Lily's drawing had creased where he'd held it too tight. At 11:30 p.m., the station had quieted to a skeleton crew. One officer typed reports. Another cleaned the coffee maker. Through the window, Marcus saw Timmons still at his desk, tie loosened, reading something on his screen with intense focus. Marcus laid the drawing carefully on his lap, smoothing the creases. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought. Tonight, his daughter slept safe with Pastor May. Walter lay in a hospital bed, fighting his way back to words. And somewhere in Greenwood, truth was working its way to the surface like lilies after a hard winter. The station lights dimmed to their nighttime settings. Marcus leaned his head back against the cold wall and closed his eyes, one hand resting on his daughter's gift. Wednesday's first light hadn't touched the windows when Rosa Alvarez turned the key in the mansion's library door. The house stood empty. Bryce at his downtown condo, preparing his case against his father's competence. Rosa moved through the familiar darkness, her fingers finding light switches by memory. The library smelled of leather and lemon oil, same as it had for 40 years. She pulled the wheeled TV cart from the corner, its old VCR dusty but functional. From a locked drawer in Walter's desk, she'd kept the key all these years. She retrieved 3 VHS tapes, their labels faded but readable. Trust, Addendum Rosa W. Dictation, March 1994. She slipped the first tape into the machine. The screen flickered, then steadied. A younger Walter appeared, seated at this same desk, Rosa's own younger self visible at the edge of frame with a notepad. "This is Walter Charles Langford," the recorded voice said, stronger then but unmistakably him. "I'm dictating additions to my trust with Rosa Alvarez as witness. Should I ever encounter someone who demonstrates extraordinary integrity, specifically on someone who returns something valuable when keeping it would serve their immediate need, I want provisions made for that person to serve as a community advisor to the Langford charitable funds." Rosa fast-forwarded to the crucial part. "I'm thinking of the kind of person who'd return a wallet with their last $20 inside. That level of honesty, when nobody's watching. When you're down to nothing, that's who I want helping decide where money goes." She ejected the tape, labeled it carefully. "For the Judge W. Langford Trust Provisions. 1994. Her hands trembled slightly as she boxed it with the hotel security footage and Marcus's employment documents. At 6:00 a.m., she drove to Greenwood General. Walter was awake, his breakfast tray untouched, studying his speech therapy worksheet like a battle plan. "The tapes," he said carefully, each word deliberate. "You found them?" 3 copies. Made sure of it back then, remember? You always said, keep receipts. His smile pulled slightly to one side. Rosa. The letter. Edward's letter. She retrieved it from his jacket, hung on the door. He unfolded it with unsteady fingers. Read it. In court. The whole thing. At 7:30. David Chen sat in a downtown coffee shop, laptop open, explaining his findings to Arjun Patel. The phishing email originated from an IP address that traces to a virtual private server paid for with a prepaid card. But here's the thing, whoever set it up made one mistake. They logged into the VPS from their home network first, probably to test it. Arjun leaned forward. Whose network? The warrant came through at 2 a.m. It's registered to Bryce Langford's condo building. Specifically, Unit 4B. That's Cassandra's home office. David pulled up another screen. There's more. The CLM Communications LLC that was supposed to receive the money? Registered Thursday afternoon. The sole member is a holding company that traces back to Cassandra's cousin in Delaware. Arjun grabbed his phone. Morris needs to see this. At 9:00 a.m. Marcus stood in the station bathroom, splashing cold water on his face. Timmons had brought him a clean shirt from Pastor May pressed white cotton that smelled like her lavender laundry soap. His hands shook slightly as he buttoned it. Your daughter's outside, Timmons said through the door. Judge approved her attending. Pastor May's with her. Marcus emerged to find Lily in her blue church dress, the one with hand-drawn lilies. She flew into his arms. Daddy, I saved you a muffin from breakfast. She pulled a slightly squashed bran muffin from her pocket, wrapped in a napkin. Miss Etta made them special. Pastor May stood behind her, solid as an oak. Naomi's at the courthouse already. The whole church prayer group is there. Miss Etta closed the diner to attend. Detective Morris appeared with a folder. Mr. Reed, the DA's dropping all questions about your involvement. David Chen's evidence is conclusive. You're free to go, but we're hoping you'll testify about the timeline. What about the CPS matter? Miss Romero's here. She's reviewed everything, Dr. Chen's medical notes, the apartment inspection, your employment status. She's recommending immediate case closure. At 11:00 a.m., Walter checked himself out of the hospital against medical advice. Rosa drove him home to change into his Navy suit, the one he'd worn to his wife's funeral. You sure about this? Rosa asked as she helped him with his cufflinks. Never been surer. His words came slow but clear. 40 years I've been hiding behind lawyers and statements. Today I speak for myself. At noon, Cassandra Langford sat in her Mercedes outside the courthouse, phone buzzing with messages from Bryce. She deleted each one without reading. Through her windshield, she watched townspeople streaming into the building, veterans in worn jackets, mothers with children, Miss Etta in her Sunday hat. She looked at her laptop bag in the passenger seat, knowing what David Chen had found, what the warrant would reveal. Her hands gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. At 12:45, the courthouse corridor hummed with nervous energy. Marcus adjusted Lily's collar, smoothing a wrinkle that didn't exist. Remember what we talked about? Tell the truth. Speak clear. Don't be afraid. That's my girl. Walter appeared at the far end of the corridor, Rosa at his elbow, moving slowly but steadily. He'd lost weight since Monday, his suit hanging looser, but his eyes held something Marcus hadn't seen before, perfect clarity. They met in the middle of the corridor. Walter extended his hand, and Marcus took it. Together? Walter asked. Together. Behind them, the courtroom doors opened. Judge Patricia Harper's bailiff called out, All parties in the matter of Langford capacity and related evidentiary hearings, please enter. Marcus squeezed Lily's hand and nodded to Walter, who adjusted his tie and stood taller, ready to face whatever came next. Judge Patricia Harper's gavel struck at 1:30 sharp. The packed courtroom fell silent. We have two related matters before us today, the bailiff announced. First, A petition regarding the mental capacity and business authority of Walter Charles Langford. Second, evidentiary review in the matter of alleged financial misconduct involving the Veterans Neighbors Fund. Bryce sat at the plaintiff's table, jaw tight, fingers drumming. His attorney, a sleek woman from Columbus, shuffled papers with practiced calm. The chair beside Bryce sat empty. Cassandra hadn't appeared. "Your Honor," Bryce's attorney began, "we move to postpone. My client's wife, a material witness, is—" The courtroom doors opened. Cassandra walked in, laptop bag in hand, face pale but composed. She didn't look at Bryce as she approached the bench. "Your Honor, I need to speak." Judge Harper raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Langford, you're not scheduled to—" "I'm the one who created the fraudulent transfer." The words dropped like stones in water. "I used Marcus Reed's credentials without authorization. I submitted both attempts to steal from the fund." Bryce shot to his feet. "Cassie, what are you—" "Sit down, Mr. Langford." Judge Harper's voice could have frozen the river. She turned to Cassandra. "You're aware you're admitting to multiple felonies?" "Yes, Your Honor." "I have documentation." Cassandra pulled her laptop from the bag, hand steady now. "Browser history, the VPS setup, the LLC registration. Everything." Detective Morris stepped forward to collect the laptop. Cassandra finally looked at Marcus. "I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this." Neither did Walter. Judge Harper studied her for a long moment. "Bailiff, please take Mrs. Langford into custody. We'll address charges separately." She turned to Bryce's attorney. "Does your client wish to proceed with the capacity petition?" The attorney whispered urgently with Bryce, whose face had gone gray. "We withdraw the petition, Your Honor." "Very well, Mr. Walter Langford. Would you like to address the court?" Walter rose slowly, Rosa helping him to the witness stand. Once seated, he pulled Edward Reed's letter from his pocket. "Your Honor, may I read something?" "Proceed." Walter's voice started soft but gained strength as he read, "December 15, 1970. Walter, you asked me to write when I got home, so here it is. You keep apologizing for that night outside Da Nang when you froze and I had to pull you back. Son, we all freeze sometimes. What matters is what we do after. You asked how to repay me. You don't owe me nothing. But if you want to honor what happened over there, then help the ones who come home to empty hands. Not charity, real chances. Work that matters. The kind that lets a man stand tall. Edward Reed, medic, Honest Battalion." The courtroom was silent except for soft crying from the gallery. Walter folded the letter carefully. "Edward Reed saved my life in Vietnam. His son Marcus saved something deeper, my ability to trust. This court, this town, needs to know that Marcus Reed exemplifies the integrity his father wrote about." Judge Harper nodded. "Mr. Marcus Reed, would you speak?" Marcus stood, Lily's hand in his. "Your Honor, I just want to get back to work. We've got a community to serve, a fund to launch properly, and neighbors waiting for help. Mr. Langford and we've got plans, a garage for veterans to run, loans for folks to start businesses, a clinic that goes where it's needed." "Mr. Patel," the judge said, "your audit findings?" Arjun presented the evidence cleanly. The frozen transaction, the IP traces, the device fingerprints, proving Marcus never initiated anything. "Mr. Walter Langford," Judge Harper said after reviewing the documents, "the court finds no grounds for questioning your capacity. Your authority remains intact." She turned to Marcus. "Mr. Reed, you're cleared of all suspicion. The fund's operations may resume immediately." She looked at Bryce. "Mr. Langford, Jr., while no charges are filed against you today, I strongly suggest you reflect on what kind of man you want to be. Your father is offering something this town desperately needs. You can be part of that or apart from it." At 3:15, the courtroom began to empty. In the corridor, Bryce approached Walter, who leaned heavily on his cane. "Dad, Not today, son. Maybe not tomorrow. But someday, when you're ready to build instead of tear down, we'll talk. At 4:00, Alyssa Romero found Marcus signing paperwork at the clerk's office. Mr. Reed, the CPS case is officially closed. Unfounded complaint. I'm sorry you went through this. You were just doing your job. Maybe. But I've got a 9-year-old at home too. I know what it's like, trying to hold it all together. She handed him a card. My husband's a vet. Iraq. If that garage needs workers. By 5:00, a crowd had gathered on the courthouse steps. Miss Etta had brought a cooler of sweet tea. Veterans from the morning coffee group stood in a loose line, saluting as Marcus and Walter emerged. Officer Timmons shook Marcus's hand. Sorry about the holding cell. You kept it professional, respectful. That matters. Naomi Park approached with her recorder. Mr. Reed, Mr. Langford, any statement? Walter spoke first. The Veterans Neighbors Fund resumes operations tomorrow, 9 a.m. sharp. First disbursement will be for the mobile clinic's fuel and supplies, Marcus added, and we're taking applications for the Garage Apprentice program. Vets and their families first, but nobody turned away who wants to work. As the sun angled warm across the steps, Pastor May raised her hands. Before we scatter, let's give thanks. Lord, you showed us that integrity stands taller than accusation, that truth cuts through lies, that a community can choose to heal. Bless the work ahead. Amen. The amen echoed across the square. Walter squeezed Marcus's shoulder, his grip firm despite everything. Tomorrow we get back to work. Marcus looked at Lily, drawing another lily of the valley on her sketch pad, then at the faces gathered around them, black and white, young and old, all waiting to build something together. Yes, sir, tomorrow we get back to work. The bacon popped in the skillet while Marcus scrambled eggs with the last of the milk. Lily sat at their small table, coloring a new lily of the valley, this one with roots spreading deep underground. Why roots today, baby girl? Miss Etta says good things need strong roots. Like us. The knock came at 8:00, sharp, soft, professional. Marcus turned off the burner and opened the door to Alyssa Romero, her badge visible but not prominent. Morning, Mr. Reed. Lily. Ma'am. Marcus stepped aside. Coffee's fresh. Alyssa accepted a mug, noting the organized counter, Lily's inhaler in its labeled spot, the medication schedule taped to the cabinet, breakfast cooling on clean plates. I need to close this case formally. Walk me through your medical management for Lily. Marcus produced a folder every doctor visit, every prescription, the note from Dr. Chen about the sample inhaler. Lily piped up, Daddy makes me do my peak flow every morning. Want to see? She demonstrated the breathing test perfectly, recording the number in a little notebook decorated with stickers. Housing situation? Alyssa asked gently. Got a 30-day notice Monday. Already have 3 possibilities lined up. Marcus showed her the printouts. 2 are closer to Lily's school. All in our budget once the fund position starts paying regular. The fund that was in question. Cleared yesterday. You were there. I was. Just needed on record. Alyssa made notes. School? Lily fetched her report card, all A's and B's. Perfect attendance except for one asthma day, teacher's note praising her kindness to new students. At 8:45, Alyssa closed her folder. Mr. Reed, this case is closed. Unfounded. I'm also removing the flag from your file. Any future reports will be scrutinized more carefully given this false allegation. Appreciate that. She paused at the door. My husband, Tommy, he really is looking for work. Mechanic experience from his guard unit. Have him come by the church Saturday morning. We're doing intake interviews for the garage. After she left, Marcus called Walter. CPS is handled. Good. Can you be here by 10? Rosa found something else in those old files. At the Langford offices, Rosa had spread yellowed documents across the conference table, hiring records from 1,978 to 1,990, each one coded with small notations. See these marks? She pointed to applications. That's how they sorted. This dot meant black applicant. This X meant veteran. 2 X's meant disabled veteran. Look how many got rejected. Walter's jaw tightened. How many people lost chances because of those marks? 43 that I can document. Probably more. Marcus studied the papers. Some of these names, I know their kids. Horace's son drives truck now, could have been an engineer. Ms. Bell's daughter cleans offices, had dreams of drafting. We make it right, Walter said. Direct payments to those affected or their families. Educational funds for the children who missed opportunities. Public acknowledgement. That'll cost millions. Rosa warned, it cost them more. By noon, they'd drafted the framework, a commission to review cases, payments starting at $50 per affected family, scholarships for descendants, and preference in fund programs. Marcus's phone buzzed. Pastor May. Landlord called the church. Says he'll work with you if Walter cosigns. Wants to meet tomorrow. At 2:00. Marcus picked up Lily from school. They drove past one of the potential rentals, a small house with a yard, 4 blocks from New Hope Baptist. Could we have a dog there, Daddy? Maybe. Let's get moved first. They spent the afternoon packing. Each box got labeled in Lily's careful printing. Kitchen stuff, Daddy's books, important papers. The photo of Tessa came off the wall last, wrapped in bubble wrap Lily had saved from Christmas. At 5:30, Miss Etta brought dinner, fried chicken, green beans, cornbread. Can't pack on an empty stomach. Besides, that kitchen of yours is half-boxed already. Over dinner, she shared news. 17 veterans signed up for the garage program today. Dr. Chen's got her mobile clinic route planned. 2 businesses already pledged to use the garage for their fleet maintenance. At 7:00, Officer Timmons stopped by with boxes from the station's last supply order. Figured you could use these. Also, he handed Marcus a printout. Background check for your new place. Already ran it, came back clean. Landlord won't have any excuses. By 8:30, most of the apartment was packed. Lily's room took longest. Each stuffed animal needed careful placement, every drawing sorted into a special folder. Which Lily should we hang up first in the new place? She asked, spreading her collection across her bed. The one with roots. Reminds us we're planted deep. At 9:00, the apartment fell quiet. Marcus sat at the kitchen table with Friday's calendar. He circled noon and wrote lease meeting in firm letters. Set one alarm on his phone for 11:00 a.m., another for 11:30. The boxes stood like patient soldiers along the wall. Through the thin walls came the neighbor's TV, a baby crying somewhere upstairs, the ordinary sounds of people getting by. Marcus looked at the folder on the counter, the funds incorporation papers, ready for tomorrow's filing. The garage lease Pastor May had negotiated. The list of veterans waiting for work. His phone lit up with a text from Walter. Reparations announcement drafted. We tell the truth tomorrow, then we build. Marcus typed back, ready. He checked on Lily one more time asleep, clutching the inhaler like some kids held teddy bears. On her nightstand, the lily with roots stood propped against her lamp. Tomorrow they'd sign a new lease. Tomorrow the fund would cut its first checks. Tomorrow the garage would have a home. Tonight, boxes labeled and alarms set, Marcus allowed himself one moment to feel the weight lifting. Not gone, never completely gone when you're raising a child alone, when bills wait and injustice prowls. But lighter. Definitely lighter. Friday morning brought boxes and purpose. Marcus walked through the bungalow one more time before the chaos began. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that caught morning light. The backyard had a maple tree, perfect for a swing. Listen, Lily shouted from her new room. Hello, hello, hello! Her voice bounced off bare walls, and she laughed at the echo. By noon, they'd signed the lease. Mr. Johnson, a quiet man with careful handwriting, handed over 2 sets of keys. Miss Etta vouches for you. That's enough for me. Saturday dawned clear. By 7:30, 30 trucks lined the street. Pastor May arrived with coffee and a clipboard, directing traffic like a general. 6 volunteers, 3 from church, 2 veterans from the forum, and Officer Timmons off-duty, formed an efficient line. The old apartment emptied fast. Beds, dressers, boxes marked kitchen and important. Everything loaded and moved in 2 hours. At the bungalow, they reversed the process. Horace assembled Lily's bed while she directed placement. More to the left. No, right. Perfect. Marcus's bed went together with military precision. 2 vets had it done in 10 minutes. The kitchen unpacked smoothly, Tessa's photo finding its place on a shelf where sunlight would catch it each morning. By noon, furniture stood where it belonged. They ate sandwiches on the front steps, Lily distributing juice boxes like treasure. Now for the real work, Horace said. The convoy moved to Maple Street, to the abandoned service station Pastor May had negotiated for the garage. 3 bays, an office, and 40 years of neglect. The crew attacked it with crowbars and determination. Old tires, dozens of them, got hauled to Marcus's truck. Rusted equipment, broken glass, ancient invoices turned to mulch. They found a possum nest in the office, relocated gently to the woods, and a coffee can of silver certificates from 1962, donated to the fund. By 5:0, the bays stood empty. Concrete floors appeared beneath decades of grime. Horace swept while Marcus catalogued what equipment might be salvaged, an old lift that might work, tool benches that needed wire brushes and faith. Sunday after church, the painting began. Walter arrived with Rosa, both in old clothes. "I haven't painted anything since Vietnam," Walter said, rolling primer on cinder blocks. The walls went from stained gray to bright white. The office got a soft blue, Lily's choice. Windows that hadn't been clear since Reagan's first term sparkled after Miss Etta's special vinegar solution. At 4:0, they gathered in the first bay. Pastor May's prayer rang off fresh walls. "Lord, let this place serve. Let honest work happen here. Let dignity be restored along with engines." Monday brought second coats and finishing touches. Miss Etta's nephew Arthur, a sign painter before the mills closed, arrived with brushes and templates. "Simple and clear," Marcus had requested. The sign went up by noon. Read, Co. Auto Vets Serving Neighbors. Black letters on white, a small Lily detail in the corner that Arthur added, "For the little artist." Lily taped her Lily of the Valley drawing in a plastic sleeve beside the office door. "Just temporarily," she said, though Marcus suspected temporarily might last forever. Tuesday, the electrician, a Navy vet named Carlos, replaced every outlet and junction box. "Can't have sparks near gas fumes. We do this right or not at all." Fire extinguishers went up, bright red promises of safety. Exit signs glowed above doors. Arjun delivered a tablet loaded with scheduling software, inventory tracking, and a special module for sliding scale payments. Everything backs up to the cloud. Full transparency for the fund. Wednesday's inspection made everyone nervous. The city inspector, known for finding violations in perfect shops, spent 3 hours examining the lifts Horace had spent all week refurbishing. "These are older than my daughter," he said. "But maintained better," Horace countered, showing maintenance logs he'd created retroactively based on wear patterns. The inspector signed off. Horace immediately started training 3 younger vets on the lift's quirks, where it stuck slightly, how to grease the pistons, why you never rushed a safety check. Thursday, a delivery truck backed up to Bay 1. Tool carts donated by Snap-on through a corporate giving program Rosa had discovered rolled out like Christmas morning. Wrenches, diagnostic equipment, everything needed for professional work. Arjun returned to set up the point-of-sale system. The payment screen included options: standard rate, senior discount, 30% off, veteran discount, 20% off, and pay what you can for documented hardship cases. "The fund covers the gaps," Arjun explained. "Every discount is subsidized, so the garage stays solvent." Naomi stopped by, Notebook closed. "Just watching," she said. "Sometimes the best stories need time to ripen." Friday was details. Yellow striping marked bay boundaries. The price board went up clear, fair, with the discount structure prominent. Horace organized tools with military precision while Marcus stocked supplies. Saturday morning, 10:30 sharp, the bay doors rolled up. The first appointment scheduled weeks ago as an act of faith was Miss Etta's van. The same one Marcus had fixed at the church, now needing an oil change and tire rotation. 3 vets worked in choreographed efficiency. Oil drained, filter changed, tires rotated, fluids topped. Marcus timed them. 24 minutes. "Not bad for a first run," Horace said, grinning. By noon, they'd completed 6 oil changes, 2 brake inspections, and 1 emergency battery replacement for a single mom whose car died in the parking lot. At 12:15, as Miss Etta's van rolled out, a line of neighbors erupted in applause. Someone had called someone who called someone else, and now 20 people stood cheering the garage's first successful morning. Marcus wiped his hands on a rag, oil under his fingernails, for the first time in months. Above the desk, Lily's drawing caught afternoon light. The lily of the valley bright in its plastic protection. The picnic tables stretched across the church lawn, borrowed from 3 different congregations and covered with mismatched cloths. Someone had strung lights between the trees not yet needed in daylight, but promising magic come evening. The hand-painted banner rippled in the breeze. Neighbors, new beginnings. Rosa supervised the food table, directing volunteers with gentle efficiency. 3 kinds of potato salad, Miss Etta's cornbread, pulled pork from the Methodist men's group, and a vegetarian spread from Dr. Chen's daughter's restaurant. "No one goes hungry today," Rosa declared, adding another pan of rice to the lineup. Walter sat at a corner table, Edward Reed's letter folded in his breast pocket where the $20 bill used to live. He watched Marcus flip burgers on a borrowed grill, saw how naturally people approached him, not asking for anything, just wanting to be near steady goodness. "Your dad would be proud," Walter said, when Marcus passed with a water pitcher. "Yours too," Marcus replied, knowing from Rosa that Walter's father had been a factory worker who'd mortgaged everything to send his son to college. Lily ran the face-painting station with 2 teenage volunteers from the youth group. She painted wobbly butterflies and fierce tigers on small cheeks, each child leaving with a paper lily she'd drawn that morning photocopied at the church office, 100 identical flowers spreading through the crowd. Officer Timmons arrived out of uniform, his daughter shy at his side. She'd heard about the girl who drew flowers and wanted to learn. Lily showed her how to start with a simple stem, how the petals curved like tiny bells. "See, you already knew how. You just needed someone to show you it was okay to try." Arjun manned a laptop at the information table, helping people sign up for microloans, garage appointments, and the mobile clinic's next visit. The screen never stopped moving, name after name, need after need, each one logged and queued for help. By 3:00, Bryce appeared at the lawn's edge. He'd parked down the street, walked slowly, almost turned back twice. Cassandra wasn't with him, their lawyers were working out details. He stood apart until Pastor May brought him a plate. "Redemption starts with showing up," she said simply. He ate standing, watched his father laugh at something Horace said, saw the community his family's money had never quite managed to buy. When Marcus walked over, Bryce braced for confrontation. "Garage needs an accountant. Volunteer basis to start. Interested?" Bryce's hands shook slightly. Yes. When?" "Tuesday, 2:00. Bring a calculator and humility." As afternoon softened toward evening, testimonies began. Not formal, just people standing where they were, sharing what the week had meant. The veteran who'd found purpose teaching lift safety. The senior who could afford groceries because the garage fixed her car for cost. The teenager who'd discovered he was good at something watching Horace rebuild an engine. Naomi took no notes, just listened. Sometimes stories needed to settle before they could be told right. The lights came on as dusk arrived, turning the lawn into something from a movie about perfect summers. The youth choir sang not a performance, just kids who felt like singing. Lily's solo verse of Amazing Grace carried across the tables, reaching the sidewalk where strangers stopped to listen. By 9:00, cleanup was communal poetry. Everyone carried something, wiped something, stacked something. The church lawn looked better than before, grass trampled, but spirits soaring. Sunday morning service ran long. Nobody minded. The offering went to the Mobile Clinic's Inhaler Fund. The sermon about talents not buried but invested made Walter cry quietly in the third row. After church, Marcus and Lily returned to the bungalow for their first full Sunday there. The rooms still echoed slightly, not enough furniture yet to absorb sound, but afternoon light through clean windows made everything golden. They unpacked the last boxes slowly. Tessa's photo went on the mantel they didn't have yet propped on a windowsill instead. Lily's art supplies claimed the kitchen table's corner. Marcus's tools filled the garage bay that smelled like decades of honest work. At 4:00, they planted a lily of the valley in the backyard, a gift from Miss Etta, who divided her grandmother's plant that morning. Water it every other day, she'd instructed. Talk to it if you want. Plants like company. Lily watered with a plastic cup, careful not to flood the delicate stems. She told the plant about the garage, about her new room, about how Officer Timmons's daughter could draw flowers now too. Dinner was simple spaghetti with jar sauce, garlic bread from a bag. They ate on the back steps, watching neighbors walk dogs, hearing kids called in for baths. Normal sounds, stable sounds. As 7:30 approached, evening routines began. Lily's bath, her inhaler before bed, prayers that included everyone they could think of, Walter, Rosa, Pastor May, even Bryce, who's trying to be better. Marcus walked the house, checking locks from habit more than fear. The front door solid, windows latched, the back door's deadbolt sliding home with a satisfying click. He paused in the backyard's doorway. The lily of the valley stood straight in its new soil. Somewhere, a motorcycle rumbled past. The church bells marked the half hour. The garage waited 6 blocks away, ready for Monday's full schedule. The town hummed low, not with old desperation, but with new purpose. Engines rebuilt, trust restored. Community working like it should, like it could when people chose courage over fear. Marcus set tomorrow's alarm for 6:00. Early enough for breakfast, school drop-off, and opening the garage by 8:00. A normal Monday in a life rebuilding itself. He clicked off the backyard light. In the darkness, he could see other houses' windows glowing warm, families settling into Sunday night rest. Engines running, he whispered to the quiet. The words weren't prayer exactly, more like confirmation. What was broken could be fixed, what was seized could turn over, what was lost could be found, returned, and multiplied. The bungalow settled into itself, boards adjusting to new footsteps, walls learning new voices. Tomorrow would bring oil changes and brake jobs, invoices and inventory. Tonight brought peace. If you enjoyed the story, I handpicked this next story that you will enjoy. Please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.